when this report came to Parliament, you know, there's no formula for Parliament approving things like this. So it was approved by what we call Committee of the Whole. Now, at the Committee of the Whole, the procedure is such that you don't have the structure to delete portions of this report if you objected to portions of the recommendation. What would have happened was that then the House would have decided to return the report to the committee for them to delete those portions and subsequently reconstitute the report, deleting the portions that some members of Parliament had objections to, if the House agreed to, and then return same to the House for approval. The life of that Parliament would have ended. And mind you, this report came at the tail end of the life of the
last Parliament.
7th Parliament. You know, so if you look at the how Parliament works, it's only the Supreme Court that has the power to say that no, one, you didn't have the mandate to make these recommendations because you exceeded it. I was hoping that would have been done. So it would have saved Parliament the trouble if somebody had raised the objections. I heard quietly that I'm a member of Parliament and we ought to have known what we were doing. It's not every time that you get a chance. The circumstances are such that it's not every time that you get a chance. That is why you go to the Supreme Court for them to tidy things up. But I'm comforted that going forward, any committee or anybody that's given a mandate will operate within their mandate and not exceed it. Because the recommendation from the Yantiamos Committee, it's not a mere recommendations. You know, they sought to give some basis to it.
I see, but did the court say anything about the monies that have been expended or spent on this, the First Lady and the Second Lady?
I didn't make that prayer, and any pronouncement from the Supreme Court has force of law. It becomes consequential. So any consequential orders are implied. If monies were paid, indeed, let the record reflect that when I issued this writ, it's sometime in February 2021. Almost immediately thereafter, public pressure was brought to bear on government, so the monies were refunded out too.
Yes.
Yes.
And we lauded the First Lady for doing that.
I'm told.
Yeah.
So
Let me bring a lot of my people on this matter, because you see, this case opens up a conversation about the position of the First Lady and Second Lady, because it is not constitutional. In fact, the Constitution doesn't recognize the office of First Lady, office of Second Lady, but yet we are spending the taxpayers' money running that office, right? And what they even have staff attached to them. Council.
Yes. Yeah, so that's it. So let's have the conversation properly, and then perhaps now that we all know that no matter who comes into office in January 2025, as for this constitution, we must amend it. Then we can look at what we would do to include them, so that at least there will be some legality. Because as you've said, practically they have their own offices, they have security guards, right? So many cars, etc. Obviously not from their husband's pockets, but from the state coffers. So if we've done this for so long, and we think that, yes, we should continue, and it appears we may have to continue, then let's do it. Let's do it, because you see, they do help their spouses in running the country. I mean, it's a fact, whether we like it or not, because there are certain places, if let's say the president doesn't attend and his wife does, it suffices in a way. I'm not saying everywhere, but there are some quarters. If the First Lady goes, they are happy that, okay, the First Lady is in there, because they know that at least she can whisper a thing or two to the husband, right? And there are other places. So, like, let's say, you see the Rebbeca Foundation, they did the mother and child maternity unit. They did Kolebu. Then they did, what you call Kumasi. So you see that companies are willing to go and give. Of course, it breeds corruption. Let's be very clear about that. So in doing it, we'll also make rules about where they receive funds. We don't want companies going there because a lot of companies are looking for access to the president.
So
you easily, and it's so nauseating. It's breeding corruption and corruption and corruption. So in saying we want them to have offices, we'll make specific rules. They will not receive a dime directly from any companies. They will not. Because for me, if we are going to make any proposals for setting up their offices properly, and we don't include rules to prevent them from receiving donations from companies, then we might as well not do it, because then it means that we will just be formalizing corruption. And of course, we also put rules about if they misuse the funds, we will prosecute them.
Okay.
Yes, it should be comprehensive, because it shouldn't just be like, oh, they can be given some funds to help in championing development, etc., and then we don't hold them accountable.
Some funds will even be sent there under the guise of
excellent, excellent,
something.
And we've seen that all too often in Ghana. So it's going to be a comprehensive, package. So if we should hear from them, if they think from experience they don't want that kind of public scrutiny and accountability, like some have been shown in recent times to have bought very expensive bags that are this is what it's several times the income of very high-ranking people living in Ghana. Then you're like, these bags you are using today, when you're in opposition, could you afford those bags? Bags costing $20,000.
Bag among people who do not even care about the bags. They don't even value your bag.
But you know,
you must carry that bag among those who appreciate.
People have appreciated. A blogger did the story and saw that second lady like this, her bags cost several hundred thousands of that, the collection. A blogger did that story. It was so nauseating. I was like, you, in opposition, you're like, Bahama, when we are scanning in our mobile penny, today you come and your bags alone cost over $100,000.
Essentially, some measures must be put in place.
Yes. If those measures,
that office.
Yes, if those measures don't come, they will not agree for any funds to be sent to them. Okay. Yeah.
So you disagree with what the courts have said?
No, so what the court is saying is that there's no law to back. Okay. And we are saying that if you look at the US like this, they do a bit, okay? And some donations also come from the private sector, right? So if we want to, that's why I say let's have a broader discussion. Let's have it. But my key thing is that if we are going to fund them, then it would also come with so much on accountability. Because if we don't have an accountability package, no, there will be no funding. Otherwise, we will be legitimizing and actually even enhancing the corruption that they're already breeding.
I see. Do you also align with that proposal that this office of First Lady, Second Lady must be maintained, regularized, and also find a place to have it well defined within the Constitution? Because as it stands now, the Constitution does not at any point prescribe any office of First Lady or Second Lady. But we have it by convention, spending the taxpayers' money on it.
I haven't seen any constitution that has addressed the issue of first ladies and second ladies. I haven't seen any.
Anywhere in the world.
And I stand to be corrected. The US Constitution is the simplest of all constitutions. It has not addressed the office of a vice president and the wife of a vice president and the wife of a president. The British Constitution, I haven't seen it.
But do they do as our first ladies are doing?
If you allow me. I've seen other constitutions, even South African Constitution, I've seen the Kenyan, I've read also even the Cameroonian Constitution. I bring in the Cameroonian because of what we all understand. The Central African Constitution, I've seen it. It doesn't. So why is it necessary for Ghana? But in all such constitutional arrangements, we have space for people who want to support private initiatives,
right,
and particularly humanitarian initiatives. And believe me, the wives of such country heads are all contributing in their own environment and even outside.
Right.
And they create human-centered institutions that are devoid of political influence. And for example, in America, the First Lady might create an NGO that will focus in an area of governance and will not depend on public finance. And in Ghana, we have also the rules and laws that control the creation of non-governmental organizations. And indeed, there are guidelines as to areas where you can operate and situations where you can even elicit funding support. So Ghana is not any different from the rest of the world. For us to create a law that says that the wife of Mr. So-and-so is covered by this law, and that, indeed, for me, I was so saddened to hear that the Supreme Court didn't rule on the propriety of the extension of mandate of the committee to even consider wives of presidents and vice presidents. No, I didn't think that. I think the Supreme Court should have been emphatic in saying that nowhere in our constitution has any provision been made to address such offices. So such offices, unknown to the constitution, are deemed to be private offices. Simple.
Right.
And therefore will not have any means of soliciting for public finance. But again, the constitution allows for a creation of non-governmental organizations, and there is freedom in directing your focus on any area of the society where you think that intervention is necessary.
Okay.
So, in the same vein, and as happened outside Ghana, first ladies are very important persons, and indeed they can also make their contribution to society. And because of the nature and the positions they hold, they have interaction with different kinds of people. And as Martin was saying, if it becomes a conduit for your access to the presidency, then again we may have compromised.
It is actually, and it's been for decades.
So look, in other generations, wives of presidents and vice presidents are professionals and doing their. You can see Obama's regime. Obama's wife is a lawyer. Is a Harvard-trained lawyer. Her work in the law and in practice, and never, although they were every now and again attending to public meetings and things like that, it was not from the office of or the coffers of the state.
The state. You
understand? So Ghana is no different for us to attempt to create a law. The laws as we have in Ghana are adequate. Okay. If we apply them appropriately, all these issues will be covered. And indeed, in respect of emoluments for presidential spouses, I think we don't need a law to that effect. And indeed, I'm very worried also when the Presidential Transitions Act attempts to introduce a word household and give an interpretation that extends the line of persons identified by the Constitution to include others who are not in the Constitution. When Constitution speaks and says that persons who qualify under Article so and so are A, B, C, D, I expect that the A, B, C, D are considered under that article without more. But when you create a new act which also introduces another word that says household and gives interpretation to that household to include others who are not considered under the constitutional article, then it means that you are trying to bring some inconsistency into the Constitution, because the framers of the Constitution knew that presidents come from households. Nevertheless, and all of us come from households anyway. So if I attended an interview, I wanted to be employed, and I say I come with my household, and therefore my remuneration will have to consider my household. Then everybody, and then my father will also come and say, I'm a farmer. My remuneration will have to be considered as the size of my household. No, but you are coming for that appointment, and they're looking at you as a person. That is what the Constitution looks at: persons, not households, because household is ambiguous. Right. It is unqualified. So, and your household may be different from my household. So, if I become president and I have a household of 8 wives, and then you also come. You also come as president.
I know you have.
And you have.
I know you have.
That is not correct. That is incorrect. No. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Stay on course.
No, I'm not saying it's wrong or not wrong. I'm saying it is incorrect.
Okay, that's fine.
And therefore, I don't have more than one.
Okay.
In any case, so I come in and I have one. Roxy comes in, he has 8. So we have interpretational problems.
How many side chicks?
So let's not go there. Let's not create problems for ourselves.
Right.
And I want to believe that, in fact, if you even tested the consistency of the Presidential Transition Act in respect of the introduction of the word household in place of persons as defined under the Constitution, probably there could have been a constitutional position on this, because all laws pursuant to the Constitution ought to be consistent with it. So when Article 71 painstakingly identifies qualified persons, it is not within the ambit of any subsidiary law to seek to extend the definition of person to include household. So for me, I think that is there is some inconsistency there. But again, we need to also encourage our first ladies, second ladies to do humanitarian work. But the way to do it must be private,
right, and not
situated on government purse.
Well,
If it becomes so, then there's no office created under law for that. So it cannot be used as another conduit to siphon money from.
Well, the Supreme Court has ruled. The offices
and the Supreme Court ruling, I want to believe that by inference, that question that Roxanne wanted answered. So when the Supreme Court says that the payment is unconstitutional, then by inference it means that the people who extended their mandate to include that, jumped the boundary.
Yes,
that is the implication.